Welcome to the Hound Talk podcast. We're here to talk everything hounds, specifically when it comes to big game. Mountain lions, bears, and bobcats. Along with the game we pursue, we're going to talk about the dogs we run and the families behind them. Enjoy some good conversation between houndsmen as we dive into what makes us live this life we live and how it all started. I'm your host, Dustin Clark. This podcast is sponsored by Cold Strike, a houndsman-owned business that was built by a family for families. Now let's get into it. Hey guys, we're back on another episode of the Hound Talk podcast, and I am with Adeline today. How are you doing, Adeline?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm great. Before we get into it too deep, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where you're from?
Okay, so my name is Adeline Richardson. I've been hound hunting since I can remember. My father kind of raised me into it, so been very fortunate that way. I'm 26 years old, and I live near Missoula, Montana. I do hound hunting in Montana and Idaho, so a little combination. Get to run bear, bobcat, lion, the trifecta. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So you've been going with your dad ever since you were a kid then?
Yep,
That
as long as I can remember.
that makes it nice. It's always interesting to hear, the different perspective between people that have got into it later in life versus those that have grown up with it. I definitely think the learning curve is a hell of a lot nicer if you grew up with it than
Oh, for
without.
sure.
I'm one I didn't get into it till I was like 19 years old. So still been doing it a long time, 17 years, but
Mhm.
definitely I had a big learning curve versus someone that just grew up in it, had it around them, and got to learn from, someone that they trusted and admired per se. So,
Oh, definitely. Yeah, my boyfriend Aaron Kelly actually just got into it a couple years ago, so we have that discussion a lot and talk about it and kind of two different perspectives there for sure.
oh, definitely. So, with growing up with it, are you still running? As far as dogs, are you still running some of the same line of dogs that your dad did, or what are you running?
Yeah, so all the dogs I got, I kind of started based off of his stuff. I've bred some of his stuff, and then I've got stuff that he ran probably 15 or so years ago back up from Utah area. So I bred some of that back into the stuff
Hmm.
that he was running when he sort of kind of raised me into it, I guess. But so yeah, I've got
Okay.
a lot of some of the Meekum stuff, and then some of the laser blood, which is stuff that came back from Utah. A
Mhm.
little bit of everything, but a lot of stuff that he kind of got me into and started on.
Oh, what what Meekum line are you running? Is it How Meekum or is it go back to Hunter and McLean?
It goes back to Hunter and McLean, and then there's a little bit of the
Okay.
Tad Meekum stuff in there too. So a
Okay.
little bit of
Yep.
both.
So yeah, Tad was married to Clint's uncle
Mhm.
or to Hunter's uncle Clint. That's I'll
I
get that.
I
So
don't
that's
know.
where that's actually
Yeah.
that's act yep. So
Mhm.
that's actually where all my dogs come from.
Oh, I
Is
gotcha.
yeah, Hunter's
Okay.
one of my really good friends.
Mhm.
I hunt with him a lot. So
Okay.
um So, and you're out of Montana. So, are you guys? Do you live where you can hunt bears now? Where that just passed? Is it a year or two ago?
Yeah, so I think we had our third season just last year. Some of the area I
Okay.
can run, some of it I can't. So a lot of the stuff that I like to cat hunt in, I can't run bears, but I'm not too far from where you can. So I definitely have been fortunate enough to get to run a lot of bear in Montana the last couple years here. So it's been huge for sure. Definitely get a lot more time with the dogs out that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. So, when Montana opened it up, they just did specific units. Then they didn't open it statewide.
No, it's not open statewide. There's actually a very limited amount of area that you can run hounds on bears. And they actually have taken a little bit more away just this last season. So it's getting more and more limited. I'm hopeful that we'll get the grizzly bears delisted because that's their main reason for shutting down areas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, dealing with the grizzly bears. I understand that. Do you is that I mean, I guess it shouldn't matter, but like some of the areas that you hunt, do you worry about running into them or are you far enough away that you don't have to deal with it?
I don't really worry about. I think dogs do run into them sometimes, but my father was actually enlisted legally to help capture a grizzly bear with the hounds, and he never had an issue with it. The dogs chased it like 20 some miles and finally put it in a tree, and they caught it and everything, and it wasn't a big deal. But so I don't really worry about accidentally running into them. Just pull dogs off. That's kind of the whole name of the game. They are around. I think they're pretty much everywhere in the state anymore. So if it does happen, you just know you got to pull dogs off,
Yeah.
and it's not that big of a deal. I don't worry about it
Okay.
anyways.
Well,
Doesn't
I get
doesn't scare me, I guess. I think as long as you got a
yeah.
handle on your dog,
I've
it's not a
just
big deal.
yeah, that makes a difference when it comes to anything as a handle. That's a
Yeah.
thing I've learned talking to certain people that out west versus back east, and I think it's definitely different with the game that they run. But a lot of guys like that I've talked to that run deer with dogs, like a handle on a dog is not important to them. They just want that dog to bust out of the truck and they want it to haul ass. They don't care how it handles. They well, as long as they can get it back and load it in the truck, they don't care.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and to me to me it's a whole lot different. Like if I got dogs at a bear or lion tree, I want to be able to call them off with leashes. Some young dogs you
Mhm.
definitely have to teach
Yep.
before that, but it makes a difference having a handle, especially when you end up on something like a grizzly bear that's off game.
Yep.
It definitely makes life a lot easier than having to go pull dogs off of a bait up bear that you don't want to be on.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I all my dogs I can just call off the tree. I don't hardly ever carry a leash anymore. I can remember my dad used to leash and we'd drag dogs out of a tree and it was a nightmare, but anymore with the Garmin stuff, it's just like I just holler at them and we leave, and usually it goes smooth. Sometimes you'll have one that's being stubborn, but for the most part, they all know. So definitely makes
Yeah.
life a lot easier.
Yeah, there's always that one that you get about 200 yards from the tree and they'll sneak back and try and go again. But
Yep, yep.
yeah, it definitely makes a difference for sure. So you're getting right into the swing of lion hunts and stuff right now. So you hunt Montana, you hunt Idaho as well. Do you go anywhere else besides those two?
I haven't yet. I definitely am interested in checking out some other states, but as of right now, I'm kind of just in Montana and Idaho. We'll do one more. I guess we got 3 more weeks of guiding in Idaho. One's under our outfit, and then we got 2 weeks with another guy that we're gonna go help him out and run our dogs. And then I don't think we're doing really much of any guiding in Montana this year. I think it'll mostly just be running for ourselves and for fun. So training
Just
dogs.
go for fun and train dogs. Yep.
Yep.
That's That's the part I enjoy. I've done both.
Mhm.
I've done some guiding, but I definitely like just going out when it's just me and my dogs. I don't got to worry about finding a tom or finding a boar. It's just you
Yep.
find a good runnable track and get some training in and let the young dogs do some work and just enjoy it for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's definitely what I prefer to do, but gotta pay for the dog food bill somehow, so occasionally it's
Uh,
fun to take someone out and get a cat, but
oh, it is, and the experience with that, their first time seeing a lion, if they've never been before, or seeing a bear in a tree is definitely it's different for sure, and seeing the emotions and stuff that come out of people can be fun for sure. It can be taxing at the same time, 4 days in and all you find are female tracks or
yeah.
or you all you can find is an old tom that's 2 days old and dealing with that.
Mhm.
So I get it for sure, but it definitely has its ups and downs on both sides of it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
see.
I definitely like the hounds for the hounds and getting to train young dogs, and definitely when you're guiding, it kinda takes away from that because you can't risk having a young dog screw up your hunt, so
Yeah.
takes away
Yeah,
from that
exactly.
aspect for sure, but
Yeah, some clients don't understand when you got pups that take off on a deer race.
yeah, exactly. They're
So,
like, "What is this?" But
yep.
oh.
So with the dogs, what do you prefer to hunt? Would you rather hunt lions or bears or bobcats?
Um, I think it depends on what season it is. I think it's kind of like comparing apples to oranges. The two styles of hunting are very different. So for me, it's like in the spring, I love running bears. In the winter, I love running cats, and I can't necessarily say that I prefer one over the other. I'd have a hard time picking.
Hmm. Yeah,
There's
no,
definitely something
I
very
get it.
unique about a lion, but bears are fun.
Yeah,
Bears are a lot more fun as far as being interactive with the dogs. So I think they're both
yeah,
kind of.
yeah, definitely. I think they both have their pluses and minuses for sure. I mean,
Hmm.
I have a true love for lions, and I think I personally would rather run lions than bears. But when it comes to my kids, they prefer bears because they
Yeah.
don't have to hike in snow. It's it's warmer and the weather's more enjoyable, and it's a lot more fast paced.
Hmm.
It can be anyways.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot more action when it comes to bears versus lions for sure.
Yep.
So I I I enjoy both. I think by the time I'm getting towards the end of winter, I'm definitely ready for bears, and by the time
Yep.
fall comes, you're ready to start swinging into lions. The change is nice,
Oh, for sure.
and I
Change of
think
pace.
like yep. And that's I think that's one benefit to running hounds versus, some of these guys that just like deer or elk hunt is you
Oh yeah.
only get that change for them. They only get it every once in a while, or us we get it every year and just keep going and going for sure.
Yep. And there's just something challenging about the hounds and not knowing where you're gonna end up. So that definitely
But
makes
yeah,
it special in its own right. I've
yeah,
had a
you
lot of.
definitely end up in some places that I'd never follow a deer or elk.
Oh, absolutely. I've had a lot of people tell me that hound hunting for bears must be easier than spot and stalk, and it's like, nah, I don't get to choose if I hike over that mountain for a little 4-foot bear that I'm not gonna shoot. You get to choose if you're spot and
Yep,
stalking, you kind of get that option of, hey, I will feel
yep,
like hiking today, or hey, I don't feel like hiking today.
yeah.
So
Oh,
that's.
definitely. Um, so with your dogs, do all your dogs go like all three? Do they all you don't separate any, or do you have certain dogs that are just lions, certain dogs that are just bears, or how are you doing it?
All my dogs will run both. Some dogs are better at one or the other. I mean, I'm sure you kind of know how that is, but I definitely have dogs that they each just play their own role in each species. If I have a dog that's only really wants to do one or the other and doesn't do the other, usually I'll sell that dog just because it doesn't. I don't like having a dog that I can't run year round. I much prefer having them all to where they all get
Hmm.
to be active and running and not sitting in a kennel. So that's kind of where I'm at. I know there's plenty of states where
No,
you can only do one or the other, so I'd rather sell that dog if it only likes running lions to somewhere that they're only running lions and vice versa.
no, no. I get that. I get that completely. Um, so with your lion season, are you what's the dates on a lion season up in like Montana? I know what they are in Idaho. They start in December and kind of go in, but are with your dates and your seasons, are you hunting all snow or are you able to do any dry ground at all?
Um, it kind of depends. So our lion season is December 1st through April 14th. So we get kind of
Okay.
mixed weather up here, and right now we don't have snow on the ground, and probably the first 2 weeks of December we won't have snow on the ground. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. A lot of times we'll cut a lion track in snow and run it onto dirt because our roads will hold snow while the side hill and everything doesn't. So we get a little bit of a mix. We definitely
Hmm.
don't do nearly as much like dry ground as they do in the more southern states. Um, yeah, I mean, I've caught cats dry ground. I definitely wouldn't say that my dogs are dry ground dogs because we don't do a ton of it. It's typically more accidental. If I'm roading them, we don't have snow and they find some, I let them. But it's definitely not something that we do actively and try to because we just don't typically have the same conditions for it that they do down south, where you can't find a track in the dirt.
Mm,
The dirt's always froze or too hard. They don't really leave tracks. Um, and we just don't have kind of the resources to do it, I guess. But occasionally it does happen. If I have an area that I know lions like to cross frequently, I'll go road dogs and see if we can get lucky. But definitely wouldn't say that we do a lot of dry ground
okay.
running. I do
Yeah.
enjoy it though.
No, I get that. That's just yeah. Oh, so do I. I mean, I love hunting lions, but I really don't enjoy walking through the deep snow very much.
It gets
Yeah.
pretty old pretty
But
fast, but
that
yeah. What can you do?
yeah,
It's kind of
but
part
that
of it.
just it yeah, just comes with it. That's just the nature of the beast when it comes to that for sure. So,
Mhm.
um so with these dogs and like especially with the lions, like I mean everybody does it different, but how are you like you cut a track, what's your process after you cut the track with your dogs?
Um, as far as like turning them loose on it, or what are you saying just
Yeah.
in general? Because the one thing
No.
that we deal
Just
with is
just
wolves. I don't know if you guys deal with wolves too or not, but so we definitely do our best to kind of check road systems and stuff and try to eliminate the aspect of wolves anyways, because I won't turn loose on a track if we got a pack of wolves that I know about nearby or headed into the same loop, if that makes sense.
mhm.
But um, other than that, usually I kind of try to evaluate how old I think that track is, and then if it's a relatively fresh track, like within 12 hours or so, usually I'll take a young dog or a pup, whatever I got with me, anywhere from 6 months to a year, just depending on their experience and kind of their level. And I'll take them and walk them down that track, let them get a good sniff of it before all the big dogs are out on it, and see if they'll take it by themselves. Sometimes they take off, sometimes they don't and they come back with you, but try to get them that firsthand experience. And then depending on if it's a older track, usually I'll just put a couple old dogs on it and let them work it and send a puppy with them behind, see if they can screw them up at all. um and if
Yep.
it's a fresh track, I'll send big dogs kind of behind that pup to try to give him some reinforcement and teach him that, hey, yeah, you're doing the right thing and here's your buddies, sort of a deal, if that makes sense.
Nope. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. On like I say, like a good, just decent night old lion track, how many dogs are you sending down it?
If it's just me, I'll usually send 4 or 5 just so they get a run. I have 8 dogs right now, so I try to get as many out on a track as I can. Sometimes, I mean, you know the drill, they'll hinder each other and mess each other up, but I think a lot of times it teaches them kind of how to work together too and respect each other and learn who knows what and all that stuff. But um, if I'm running with someone else, then usually it's 2 dogs, 3 dogs, and they do the same 2 dogs, 3 dogs, somewhere in there. So we end up with 5 or
Yep.
6. Usually not more than that, though.
Nope.
Sometimes
Nope.
we get a
I
little
definitely
crazy
under.
and we
Yep.
dump a few extra in at the end, but just kind of depends. I've had 15 dogs at a lion tree
That's
before,
all.
and it's like, this was a bad idea. A little too much, but
Yeah. It gets a little chaotic for sure. Bears is a little bit different story, but
yep.
I'm the same way. Lions, it gets just too chaotic. Whereas bears, I'm just like, let's open the gates and pour it to them.
Yep. Yep, I always plan on holding a
Oh,
couple dogs back to try to dump in, and then I get too excited and let them all go, and I'm like, "God dang it." Bear crosses the road in front of you, and you got no dogs in your box. Oh, that's always
oh
a good
yeah,
feeling.
I've had that. Yeah, I've had that happen a time or two.
I swear
So,
every time you dump
um,
your whole box.
exactly, and it ends up being one of those little runners that if you had some fresh dogs, you really could get it caught a heck of a lot quicker. But it just
Yep,
doesn't work out that way when you can't put anything on it.
yep, yep. That's how it is.
So, oh yeah, definitely. Um, so with growing up with this and being around it your whole life, can you remember a time, probably when you were younger, that you just kind of went on a hunt or something with your dad and you realized like I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. Like, this is what I want to do. I enjoy these dogs. I want them to be a part of my life. Like, was there that aha moment for you, or was it kind of just always there?
Um, I think so. Ironically, probably the hardest, toughest hunt of my life was the one that definitely sticks out in my mind as being that moment of this is just who I am and what I do. And it was the first lion I ever killed. I was 14, and I think we hiked 8 miles or so in waist deep snow. And I mean, of course, I probably remember it more dramatic than it actually was, but I still remember it as the worst hike of my life. And I killed a great big tom, and it was awesome, but it was just that like brutal hike and getting into the dogs and then coming out and sitting next to a fire on the road while we waited for a buddy to come pick us up and having a dog curled up on my lap and just
Yep.
thinking about how the misery was part of the fun, and I don't know why, but it just stuck with me. So doesn't make a lot of sense when I try to put it
No,
into words, but it's definitely kind of
no,
that
I
moment.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. I mean, it's just like when you have a day that you hike your ass off, you're in either waist deep snow or it's hot and it just is a miserable, miserable hike. You get to that tree, you forget about it. And then you come back out to the road with the dogs, and as bad as that day sucked, no matter what happened, you know you're gonna turn around and do it again tomorrow.
Yep. Literally.
Like like I think you have to have a little bit of a screw loose to be a
Mhm.
houndsman.
Oh,
Anyway,
absolutely. I don't think I've met a houndsman that's totally normal. It doesn't have something a little bit wrong with
no,
them, a
no,
little
I don't
kooky.
think so either.
Don't think it's possible.
Eh, yeah, that's exactly right. You know, and like a memory like that or something is just like it all just kind of sticks with you. And I think every houndsman, whether they can remember it or not, always kind of just has that moment that's like, oh yeah, this is the shit I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. This is
Mhm.
what's it's not a hobby anymore. This is what's gonna be a part of my life and like a way of life, more say, because you can't have hounds and just do it as a hobby. I mean,
No.
you probably could, but it's too tough.
Yeah, it's just too much work
So
and too much time. It's hard to do it part
yeah,
way, for sure. It's kinda either your life or not, and that's kind of every houndsman I've really
yeah.
met that is really a houndsman that stays in it anyways, is it's part of their life and that's who they are, so
Exactly. Yeah, you can't say it much better than that. It's not just a hobby. It's part of them and who they are for sure. I really like that. Um, so with switching, kind of not switching a lot, but when you're bringing in dogs or breeding for dogs, what are you looking for more than anything? I mean, we're all looking for that once in a lifetime nice dog that starts easy and does it all by themselves and is just easy from the get-go, but what traits are you looking to bring in or breed for as you're doing this, especially where you use your dogs to make a living?
well, I guess I all of it. I'm looking at build, I'm looking at intelligence, I'm looking at how cold their nose is, I'm looking at how capable they are when it comes to grinding out a track, I'm looking at how determined they are to stay at a tree. I mean, it's definitely a trifecta of things, like more than a trifecta. There's a bunch of different traits that for me I look at. A big thing for me is I want a dog that's gritty, but is smart enough not to get caught by a bear because I can't afford a lot of vet bills. And if I'm losing dogs to bear, that's a problem for me because I use them for lion too. And there's a lot of time and money that goes into these dogs. And if you got a dog that's going to be suicidal and going in there on a mean bear and getting killed, that doesn't do you a whole lot of good. Um, Same thing with lions. I haven't had issues with, I've, knock on wood, never had a lion actually kill a dog. So all of the lions I've ever caught have climbed a tree or at least been somewhat up above where the dogs couldn't get them. Um, but yeah, just kind of, I would say that every houndsman looks for that, but at the same time, I know every houndsman's definition of that is a little different. So Some guys want dogs that work a track a certain way. Some guys want dogs that work a track a totally different way. I would say that I have dogs that work tracks different ways. Um, they all kind of have their own style, their own unique style, and I wouldn't say that any one of them is necessarily better or worse than the other. I kind of like having a variety of how they run. I was actually just talking to Aaron about this the other day, and we turned two dogs loose, and they both had totally different styles of running, but we were running a really crappy old lion track, and they worked it out together. One of them was true to track and it just go track for track, and the other one would kind of loop out and make losses and loop out, and they just bounced off each other and worked it together really well for having two totally different styles. So I think there's a lot of different traits and different things that you can look for, but they're not all necessarily going to line up with what the next guy wants or necessarily even what you realize you want or like. Kind of a weird answer to your question. I'm sorry.
No, no, that's a great answer because it is that like everybody expects different things out of their dogs. Like
Hmm.
where you guys primarily hunt snow and bears versus some of these guys that hunt straight dirt down here.
Yep.
They're they're looking for completely different things. They want a more colder nosed track driven dog that's got some decent tree in it, but
Yep.
where you're kind of running more the snow side or the bear side of it, you're going to want a dog that can run that cold track, but also can pick its head up and move and
Yep.
drift that bear track. And we all want good tree, but some dogs that are great trail dogs don't tree well,
Yep.
and some do, some don't. But I think having a I'm trying to remember who I was talking with, but having a well-rounded pack is a very,
Hmm.
very good thing, which is why some guys will bring in different dogs from all over the place trying to just complement or add in something from another guy that has a strong tree line where you're running strong trail dogs and try and mesh that.
Yep.
And I don't think there's ever a perfect combination for everyone because a dog that runs well and does phenomenal for me can be one that's just going to be an okay dog for you because I hunt different country than you. You expect different things out of your dogs than I do.
Mhm. Oh,
And I
for sure.
think there's a lot to be said with that, you know,
Yep.
definitely. Um, so are you an outfitter full time or do you have a normal day job like the other half of houndsmen that want to live full time?
Well, I can't really say I have another day job. I work for my father occasionally painting houses and that kind of thing. He builds houses, so I'll go help out with that when I need extra work and have some extra time. But other than that, I don't. I tried real estate for a little while and decided it wasn't really for me. So definitely not my
Mm,
cup of tea.
no,
Just kind of a sold a couple of
I
his
get
houses for him, but takes away
mhm.
from the hound dogging
No,
thing. So
I get that for sure. So the outfitter that you're running, are you the owner or are you working for someone else when you're doing that as well?
So Aaron Kelly, my boyfriend, is actually the owner of the outfit. We've been working together on it.
Okay.
But on paper he is the owner, so I'm working for him
Okay.
technically, and then we get also take work through a couple other outfitters that are near us that we know of and are friends with and everything. We kind of work with everybody because you can't take too many lions out of one area and too many bears out of one area with hounds, so we're kind of bouncing around and making sure we spread out the harvesting, if you will, just to keep quality
Mhm.
up. But
No. That's but now good for you. That's awesome. No, I was just curious. I have no problem throwing a shameless plug if you want to throw it out. The outfitter, I get it. If
oh,
the more I can help people spread it out, I will just cuz I want to help houndsmen. So if a houndsman owns a business, I'd love to help them spread it and get the word out for sure. So,
yeah, we're operating under Granite Peak Outfitters right now. We're looking at buying another outfit to add more area even still. So we'll see if that goes through or not. But
okay.
we're gonna go check it out here in a couple days. But a little more stuff in Idaho. I'm not sure why we ended up in Idaho, but we did end up in Idaho. So I'm not mad about it. I do like Idaho's hound hunting laws a little better than Montana right now. I think Montana has potential to go the right way, but it also could go the wrong way. So it's hard saying right now where we're gonna end up here. But
Oh,
Idaho's definitely managed in a way that is beneficial for houndsmen, I would say.
yeah, I agree completely as far as how Idaho manages. I mean, I think every state could definitely do a little better, but Idaho, as far as for hounds, has got it figured out a lot better than
Yeah.
most states for sure. So in Montana, are you regulated by certain units per outfitter like Idaho is, or can you kind of just go wherever?
So Montana is different in the fact that you can have multiple outfitters per area. They do still are limited to areas, so like there's certain zones and stuff that they can run in. I think it goes by unit also. Um, but you can have more than one outfitter in a unit, and that adds a lot more competition to that unit and kind of takes away from the public being able to utilize that as well. I know there's a couple areas
Hmm.
here in Montana where there's certain outfitters that are definitely doing more than their fair share of harvesting of lions and kind of taking away from the public's ability to do so, because we also run a quota system here. So once the quota's filled, that's it. Which I do like that more than the Idaho way of no quota, but it's definitely
Yeah.
tougher as far as the public outlook goes for having outfitters maybe over harvest and there being three outfitters in one area all taking and harvesting from the same area. So I don't like that as much for sure. I prefer Idaho's way of having one outfitter per area and not sharing, if you will. Makes it better for everybody, in my opinion.
No,
So.
no, I understand that because where I grew up and spent a lot of time hunting in Utah, and Utah's kind of the same way as Montana is, where multiple outfitters can be on one unit. Doesn't really matter as long as they have forest permits or
Mhm.
whatever, they can hunt in that, and it definitely can hurt units. Whereas separating it out to be unit specific for outfitters, I think definitely. I mean, it's a double edged sword because it makes it hard for a lot of guys to kind of start their own outfitter unless they know a person and can hunt under them. But also at the same point, it kind of keeps it in check and does give the public more opportunity as far as, more game, I should say. So
Mhm.
I've definitely seen it both ways. I also agree with, like, I like the quota system. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on in Utah right now, but that state's a shit show when it comes to lions.
Yeah, it's
So
horrible.
I definitely, yeah, I definitely am liking because I'm in Arizona now, and I definitely kind of like the system that Arizona has because they do it all unit specific, but they have a quota, but they also hold a female sub quota under it. So, if so many females get killed, doesn't matter, it shuts down the unit. So I do like that, but
Yeah, Montana does the same thing. We
I
have a
get,
separate quota for female and male. So it kind of limits the number of
hmm
females that can be taken out of an area, which I think is really important. I think there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that you kill three females out of one drainage and your lion population is going to suffer for quite a while. So just kind of
oh,
a matter of.
definitely, because you take out one, yeah, you take out one female and that just gets rid of not just one cat, but it gets rid of multiple generations of cats for over the years. Whereas if you just take out one Tom out of that drainage, you give it a month or two, another Tom's going to come sniffing around. He's going to be looking for that female. And it just, yeah, I mean, definitely for sure. I think that's a big thing that a lot of people don't understand, and especially new houndsmen when they're getting into it, if they don't have the right mentors that bring them up and show them these ways of not killing females and not harvesting sows or whatever. If
Yep.
we don't educate these new guys that come in, it hurts us in the long run. And it's
Mhm.
it's hard because nobody wants to take the new kid into their best hunting spots because you know what's
Yeah.
going to happen next week. The new kid's
Mhm.
going to be in there before you because he's got more gung-ho to get up at 2 in the morning versus 4 in the morning.
Yep.
And but it's hard because if you don't take them in and show them the right way, then they're going to do it the wrong way until someone does teach them that. And there's always those guys that don't give a shit and they're just gonna do what they want no matter what.
Oh,
But
yeah. Yeah, I
just
think
it is what it is.
it is. And I think, like, one thing that I can say that I've learned from my father is trying to take people under your wing and sorta teach them our ways is your best chance for not having that overharvest, and I've done it with a few people, and I think that I can say I've made friends, and a lot of some of the guys that I know that I've done that with are running my line of dogs and kinda just reflecting positively on me versus the other way around where you got that competition of, "Oh, hey, this guy cut a track before me, so now I'm shit out of luck for the day," but if one of those guys cuts a track and I show up, they're gonna let me dump a dog in, it's not a competition thing, it's more of a camaraderie, and yes, you do end up with the occasional person that's gonna do whatever they want and kinda come in and try to mess up an area, but there's only so much you can control and try to control the things that you can, and you can control how you treat other people and kinda make them feel about it and make them learn and help them to understand and kinda be like, "Hey, if you're in this for the right reason, then you're gonna be kinda the same as the rest of us, right? You're gonna want more cats for your dogs to chase, and you're gonna see that killing every cat you catch is only gonna shoot yourself in the foot, and you're not gonna be in it for very long," so
No, that's exactly right, and I agree, especially like with the community thing, which it's a hard pill for a lot of guys to swallow because as much as you hate to say it, houndsmen are like when it comes to jealousy, they're bad. they're they're really bad. They don't, they want to have better dogs than the next guy. They want to catch more than the next guy. But to
Yep,
me, like when I've had a friend come hunt with me that's never hunted bears before, and now like that same friend calls me. He's like, "Dude, I'm catching bears on my own now." Like to me, I'm just as happy for him that he's out catching bears on his own than I
yep,
am when I'm catching my own bears.
yep,
Like to me, that just helps him succeed, and his dogs have gotten better. And to that's just another guy that's going to be smarter and can maybe help someone else out.
yep,
Same with my kids. I'm trying to teach my kids the right way when it comes to hunting, at least what I think's the right way. I mean, someone
yep,
else could argue that it's wrong, but my kids have been to I I couldn't even tell you how many bear trees, and they've seen very, very few die. To them,
mhm,
bear hunting for us is they just learn that we go take pictures of the dogs, take pictures of the bear, and then we go back to the truck.
yep,
To them, it's all just catch and release. They enjoy the dogs, and that's what I've tried to instill in them more than anything. Is it's about the dogs. It's
yep,
not about what we catch or what they kill or anything like that. The pure enjoyment for me and what they're starting to show is just out of watching these dogs work, watching these dogs progress, and really just falling in love with that bond between you and your dogs, and seeing that bond grow to see what ends that hound will go to just to do his job because he has that bond with you, if that makes sense.
yep, absolutely. I agree 100%. I think that the dogs are why all the good houndsmen do it. I mean, I think the guys that get dogs to go kill stuff don't last very long because, I mean, once you kill 2, 3 animals, 10 animals, however many it is for you, you're gonna be tired of it and you're gonna get rid of the dogs and you're not gonna be in it anymore. For the most part, all the houndsmen that are true houndsmen that stay in it that I've seen are there for the dogs and they enjoy the dogs. And yeah, sometimes you kill some because it's big or whatever, whatever your reason is. That's fine. That's normal, I think. But I don't think that there's many guys that are really big into hound hunting that are there for that reason, I guess. And I don't think they should be because I don't think they'll last very long. But I think
Yeah,
there's
no,
definitely a
I
balance
agree.
too. Um, yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, there definitely is, and even these guys and like that are these bigger outfitters that do it for a living. Yes, they
Mhm.
take clients. Yes, they make money off of it. But you go sit with them, and they can tell you every dog, what that dog's about, where it comes from, and some of them can trace them back 5 generations of dogs just because they care so much about these dogs and so much about what they're putting into these dogs and the time and everything else, that it really shows. And I think that's an essence of hunting when it comes to hounds, that a lot of these, like, for lack of better word, a lot of these boot hunters, that are hunting deer and elk and that, they don't get that relationship like hound hunters do. Yeah, they have the relationship with the mountains and they like the
Mhm.
elk, they like the deer and stuff, but in the end, they're not going to let that big buck go just because they got a picture of it. I'll
Yep.
let that big tom go just because I, I caught him with the dogs and I'm happy. It,
Yep. Exactly.
you know,
Yeah. Oh
yeah.
man.
So it's
No, it doesn't
um
make a lot of sense until you
so
do it,
so
I
what
think.
I agree completely. I agree. And just some people I don't think will ever understand it, and those are the ones that don't quite stick with it for a lifetime like the rest of us do. Is
Yep.
if you truly have that love for the dogs, you'll understand that, and you'll completely get it and just be like, "Yep, I've been there," for sure.
Yep.
So over the years, you've been doing this pretty well your whole life. Is there that one dog that kind of just stuck out, that kind of just had it all, that was one that you kind of compare the rest to, for kind of lack of better words?
Um, I would say I've got one right now that I think is kind of special in my heart and will probably be that dog for quite a while for me. I'm not sure I'll ever kind of replace him. It's my Slim dog. He's only 3 right now, but he caught his first bobcat at like 5, 6 months by himself. He's real tall, real slender, just a really fast all around dog. He's got probably the coolest nose in my pack, and his only kind of fault is his lack of treeing. He'll stay at the tree now, but it definitely that was his slowest kind of pickup. But he's from Meekum blood and Laser blood. I got him from a guy down in Utah, Cody Webster. But he actually came from some stuff that my dad had picked up and sent down to Utah, and it's kind of a long story, but he came from some blood that my dad used to have a long time ago, and Cody was nice enough to send me up a pup from one of his dogs that was from that breeding. So I've kind of been putting him into all of my stuff and mixing him with some of my females and some other buddies' females, just trying to get as much of that blood up here as I can. But he's just that like all around just incredible dog that kind of hasn't been beat and just I don't know, he just does it all. And if I put him on a track, I usually feel pretty good about it. But he's real fast on bear
Yep.
too. He's got the capability to grind out a cold lion track, but also the capability to pick his head up and just run. But he's also kind of my house pet, so that helps. He sleeps on my bed at night and goes everywhere in the truck. He's spoiled rotten. I think I got a couple like that that just get extra spoiled, and I think that makes him a better dog. I've had people tell me that it makes him worse, but I honestly think it makes him a better dog. So they got more of a bond with me, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, I think any time you can spend with these dogs away from hunting
Mhm.
just creates more and more of a bond, that I think in the end they're just gonna they'll push harder. They're gonna be like, oh, they have that bond, that they know if they complete and finish this track or push this track to the end, that you're gonna show up. They trust you. They know you're gonna be there. You're gonna come get them, and you're gonna finish the job. Whereas, it can go both ways, but I definitely think any and extra time you can spend with these dogs is going to be great, and it's only going to be beneficial. I don't think you can really hurt them by spending too much time or making them a house pet or anything like that. At least with my experience,
Yeah.
there's always those guys that'll argue with you and say they won't hunt as hard or whatnot, but I've seen it both ways, so I
Yeah.
I don't think it hurts, but not everybody can afford to put 20 dogs inside their house too, if that's what they've got.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
couple's a little different.
Mhm. Oh, for sure. Yeah,
So
no. That makes it that makes it tough for sure having that many dogs. I mean, I'm up to 8, but There's only two of them that get to come in the house at night because I just can't have more than that right now with the situation I'm in. But we were living out of tents for, oh, 6, 8 months there. So it was kind of one of those things where we didn't have a
Oof.
whole lot of room. But
Yeah. No, I understand that. So going back just a little bit with bears, where your season's only been into like the third season up in Montana, were you running bear before that, or did you have to transition these dogs that you were just able to run lions with into bears?
so I wasn't running bear before that. My dad had some experience running bear in Idaho when I was younger, so I remembered running bears. The dogs that I had hadn't been on bear at all yet, so we did have a bit of a learning curve there. I had a young pack that I basically just took them out and started roading them in areas that I knew there would probably be bears, and my crash dog smelled a bear and took off on it, and I kind of crossed my fingers and went, I hope it's not a coyote, and made it to a tree, and that's kind of where we started. So
Okay.
yeah, that was kind of my
I
learning
was
curve. I
curious on that.
Yeah, yep, I hadn't ran any bears with those dogs, so they were new to it. I at least had the experience from when I was younger running with my dad over in Idaho some, but it had been 5, 6 years since we had done that, so all the dogs I had were new to it. But they all had the breeding, so I felt pretty confident in their capabilities if we could just get on the right game, which we were pretty fortunate to do pretty quickly. Didn't take much time, so
Yeah. No, no, I understand that. So, I mean, roading them and picking up a track's definitely a little different. How was it? I guess I should ask, like when you're hunting bears, you're probably rigging them. So was transitioning into learning and teaching rig dogs, and that was that a little bit tougher as well?
yeah, that definitely took a lot of time to kind of learn my dogs and kind of figure out. I've got that crash dog that I mentioned earlier. He was a really natural rig dog. I started before I even had a rig rack. I just rolled down my window on my Jeep and figured if he decided he liked something enough to jump out the window, it was probably good, and that's exactly what he did. I did that probably 4 or 5 times where I just kind of let him go when he thought it was necessary, and after that, I got a dog box built up and everything and started actually rigging and kind of learning what his different barks meant and when he was running trash. And I mean, it was definitely a long process. I think I'm still kind of in that process with him when he's when we're coming off lion season. It takes a little bit to kind of get him re-trash broke and hammered back in to where he's not rigging on every little tiny scent and scent pockets and stuff like that, and kind of figuring out, okay, this one's hot, okay, that one, he's just kind of smelling a little scent pocket of some sorts. I've had him rig on bobcat scratches and stuff, and it's like that's great and all, but it doesn't really end up producing much. So it's kind of one of those things that I gotta learn, and I would say I'm still
Yep.
learning for sure.
Okay. No, and I can imagine definitely just going from running lions for so many years straight to transitioning into being able to do both. It is a big learning curve. I mean, no matter how long you've been running houndsman, changing from one game to another is always a little bit of a curve, but to have dogs that have never done it, it's definitely a big adjustment because it's a different style of hunting. Like you said, they're trailing a little different. Rigging's completely different versus just
Yep.
finding a track and dropping them and stuff like that. So I was just curious. I'm glad I asked that question because it's all everybody's different, and some people don't realize that like it can be that big of a difference running one species versus the other and using dogs to transition what it can take as far as transitioning from bears to lions and stuff like that or vice versa. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it's one of those things that until you've done it, it's like, well, it's kind of just the unknown. So, I mean, I knew the generals of it, but I hadn't had the experience of training a dog to do it. So, it was definitely a very fun and unique experience, and I that definitely holds my interest a lot more because it's just something that I had to kind of learn on my own, if that makes sense, versus having dogs that kind of already
no,
knew
that
knew the
makes
gig. But
yep. No, that makes perfect sense. I I get that for sure because I when I first started, I just ran pretty much primarily lions just because I didn't live close to decent bear hunting. So once I finally moved and got closer to bears, I really started to learn it myself. I mean, I had good guys and mentors to talk to and stuff, but I really just kind of learned bears on my own versus how I learned lions. And
Yeah.
I think I mean, I had definitely have a love for bear hunting just for that aspect of it for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. I mean, just the whole
awesome.
yeah. Them opening up the whole bear hunting thing, I
Yep.
think, changed
Makes
a
a
lot of
difference.
houndsmen on Montana, so it was a unique experience, I think, for all of us, so especially the guys that really dove into it and figured it out.
Sweet. Well, we will wrap this one up. I won't keep you too long, but I just want to say thanks for hopping on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. It was interesting getting to talk to you and actually meet you. So, appreciate it.
Hey guys, with it being November, I wanted to pop on here real quick and just kind of let you know what's going on with Cold Strike. We do have Black Friday deals going on, and also for the month of November, we are giving away a TT25 collar or TT15, either choice. If you win, you get to choose. Details are over on our Instagram. I don't think it's one you're going to want to miss. So just wanted to hop in real quick and tell you about that and say thanks again for all your support. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Hound Talk podcast with the Cold Strike crew. If you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, give us a review. It means a lot to us. Thank you for your support. Now go load them dogs and take the kid hunting.